guest in the studio to my right is the NPP Nasra coordinator, Kamal Dean Abdullah. Kamal, good morning.
Good morning.
And I hope you are doing great.
Terrific.
Great. Welcome once again. And then the Member of Parliament for Damongo is to my left, the member of the NDC, Mutawakilu Adams. Good morning.
Good morning.
And hope you're doing good too.
Great.
Thanks so much for joining us. Now, let's start with this story. And education is quite key, so we'll start with that. Now, the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools is suggesting that they won't reopen senior high schools unless something happens. The reason is that they're talking about arrears. I think progressive free school arrears. They're also talking about inadequate feeding fee. They're also talking about some other funds that are to be given to these schools that are in arrears for 2 terms. And so they are unlikely to reopen unless something drastic is done, some money is sent to them. Honorable Adam Mutawakili, let me start with you here. These monies that are supposed to go to these institutions some time ago had run into difficulty. We know of the GET Fund, we know of the NHIS issue, and the Finance Ministry tried hard to deal with them. So we got to a point where we saw some reprieve, monies were paid. But does it suggest that we're going back to it? The monies for senior high schools in arrears for 2 terms.
Thank you very much. Good morning for cherished US and more especially the good people of Damongo constituency. Yeah, yesterday I listened to the news and this, I think last 2 months there was issue of feeding grants
in the three northern regions.
Right. Subsequently, something has been done about it, and yeah, I was told by the ministry they've released funds to cover some of the terms that were not covered. But it has been recurring, and I think it is important the Minister of Education and GS should come out with modalities as to how they will be able to coordinate with the Minister of Finance to ensure that come September, these arrears will be settled and the schools can resume normally. This thing has been in worrying us for quite some time. Yeah, I realized some time ago, in 2006 or so, this issue cropped up. And the utterances of some of government officials was not that palatable. Challenges will come, but the acceptance and your resilience to ensure that they are solved is very critical. Yes. We think that we have an issue, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of today, the Minister of Education and Finance come out with a way to get out of these difficulties, even before school resumes. So I believe that in the course of this month and next month, these issues will be resolved.
Will be resolved.
Yes.
How worried are you that these things are delayed, despite the fact that they are crucial in ensuring that the vehicle in which we are sitting continues moving? How worried are you?
Yeah, thank you very much. Normally, when we do budgets, they are proposals. Budgets are not. If I propose that to this year I will be spending about 2 billion on A, doesn't mean that the 2 billion is seated. In other countries like Norway, they have the resources. They take they have what we call pension fund from the oil, and they always calculate some 2% of the interest for the budget. So before even the budget comes out, the resources are there. And in most developing countries and some of the advanced countries, it's what trickles in at the end of the day that is utilized. So if you budget, say, 2 billion, and at the end of the day, what you get is about 1.2 billion, you realize that there will be a shortfall. And that is some of the challenges currently we are going through. And as a result, we are not able to immediately meet some of these needs. Expenditure.
So for instance, you're suggesting that perhaps the fall in the international commodity prices, the fall in oil prices that is affecting our revenue could partly be responsible for our inability to meet our day-to-day needs.
Yes, because the Minister of Finance indicated they will even be coming with a budget review.
Right.
That indicates that, and looking at the trend in respect of commodity prices, the oil price is slammed to 30, now it's about 48.50. That means the expected revenue that we projected during the budget reading is not reflecting in reality. Gold prices hasn't been that good. Gold prices hasn't been that good. And that means that the budgeted revenue will not be able to meet, and therefore we will not be able to meet expenditure as budgeted as timely as possible. The other thing we have to realize that the year is not uniform. During the first quarter to second quarter of the year, the revenue inflow is slow. You are not able to raise enough revenue during the course of January to June. It's after June that the revenue inflow seem to improve, normally improve significantly. And therefore, even in our common fund, what we budgeted and what is strictly in for the first 2 quarters is not matching. So that is why I said we depend on the inflow. So I believe that once we've crossed June, there will be the economic activities improving. We'll be able to settle most of this.
All right. Let me go to Kamal and see if he thinks same. So, projection and the actuality isn't matching. That is why we are in this kind of difficulty.
Well, very interesting. Today, when some of these difficulties are unearthed, all we are told is that some expectations, as it were, contained there in our budget were not met due to the lack of trickling in of funds. I mean, I find that very interesting. If we sit before our own electorates, constituents, the very people we have told that free S or progressive SHS is on course, the very people we are telling that some 200 secondary schools will be built to ensure that educational sector in this country is ameliorated. The very people, the same people we keep telling them, the very people we tell them that the economy is on a sound footing. The very people will go to them and tell them that, look, all is well, we are fine, we are cushioned. The green book is there, go into it and see what we have done. Massive. That's very good. Only for us to come and say today, when the truth comes out, staring us in the face, telling us that, look, for 2 terms, and a term is about 3 months and more. So that means 6 months and more. That means 2 quarters in a year. Isn't it? Okay? They have not had any assistance coming from government. And averagely, each secondary school, okay, government owes to that secondary school close to an amount of 100,000 Ghana cedis. Now, the last time I checked, the number of secondary schools in Ghana is amounting to close to about 500 schools. Now, let's even say CHASS jurisdiction is within 300. I don't have the actual figure, but I'm just speaking to what? 300, multiply 100,000 by at least 300 or over 300. You are running to several millions of Ghana cedis. My good brother sits here and tell me that budgets that we make in this country are based on projections.
Is that not the case?
Oh, no. That's what you see, point is that before you even go into a budget, I mean, to draw a budget, you first would have to know how much do I have in hand. First of all, okay, what would be my expected expenditure? You are expected to have done all this before going into it. It is not for any reason that we have review of the budget at a point at the midterm. Okay, point is that yes, I agree with him at some areas you will have to do projection, but you can never go into a budget without anything into your kitty. I disagree with him. You're surely going to have something in your kitty, and what you have in your kitty, you say I have various ministries. Minister of Education, maybe say I'm giving 1% of what I have. Minister of Agric maybe say, I'm giving 2% of what I have. Point is, these schools that we have in this country are crying of hunger. So basic commodities like food going to our students, we could not pay for that, or we cannot pay for it until money comes from external donors. Is that what he's speaking? What he's telling me? Or until money is gotten from the sale of oil. When was the last time the price of oil dropped? When was the last time? If you are quoting $48 and all that, maybe let's say just not happen to the monies that we've had hitherto before even this particular situation we find ourselves. You see, I don't want us to try to trivialize this by saying that because we projected and we didn't get money, that is why we are not paying. It's about being inept.
Okay, so you're suggesting that it is simply inefficiency.
Inefficiency, exactly. Look, you see, we are told that there's a lot of money. Look, do you know the money they have wasted? We may be coming to the, I'm sure we'll come to that story. SADA alone, if you have thrown close to 300 million Ghana cedis, the secondary schools we're talking about need close to say 40 million Ghana cedis and they'll be fine. You've thrown over 300 million Ghana cedis into SADA. And my good brother, I'm happy he's from the north, I'm from the north. Go to the north and look at the sad story of SADA. Pathetic. Yet you sit here and tell me that there's no money. You have actually misappropriated what we're supposed to actually properly appropriate. That is what you have done. You haven't used the money prudently. If you have little, make sure that you try to come out and draw your lines. Say this is important, that is not important, this is important, that is not important. But you don't take money, throw money out. Next moment you come and sit down and say, I have not done this because the expectation that I had in terms of funds to trickle into cushion my budget, I didn't get it.
He suggests that in a day or two or three, Finance Ministry is likely to deal with this issue.
Don't you find that interesting? The gentleman who has had cause to tell us why we've not been able to pay, and in a day or two, Finance Ministry is going to do magic. Don't you find that interesting? Finance Ministry will be doing magic in a day or three. I mean, that's interesting. You see, look into the face of the people. You have just said here that in a day or two or three, there will be something done on the. Wait a minute, there will be a message.
There will be. I've not indicated.
The people are hungry.
A response from
how to deal with it. Be very, very careful.
Let's put it that way. At least a reaction from the Finance Ministry.
What is the rudiment of the problem we are discussing here?
All they need
point is that
to go back to school.
3 CD 50 pesos, which is even inadequate, is to be given to students. I mean, to a student to be fed, okay, to be given to a school to feed a student daily. 3 CD 50 pesos. They are not able to pay. They are talking about inadequacy. They've not even paid what they're supposed to do. Then you come to sit here and tell me that in a day or two there will be a message out. We're not talking about messages. They're not going to eat messages. We're talking about coming to tell us that this is the money we have gotten. We are going to push you. So that the students who are out there anticipating to be bettered or to see their life being bettered, of course, have, as it were, hope. But you don't sit here and tell me that you'll come up with a message.
Okay.
They've always heard you.
Come on, I'm grateful.
Let me do some fundamental corrections.
They've always heard you.
One, when I say there will be response, that means that whatever information CHASS has given us, the Minister of Education, they will come out as to how they are going to resolve it too. I indicated that the manner and approach to challenges is very critical. I indicated it. And I indicated somewhere 2006, it became very clear that we had these challenges. And do you know what a former Minister of Information said? We should go and eat conconte. You see? So when you faced similar challenges and your response was not acceptability, and for challenges, we will continue to have challenges as a human being. But when your colleague or people from your area have challenges and the approach is very important, it can calm down the person's temper, then you have a way of going out. Two, I have never, as a member of parliament, where a budget is submitted and government says, this is what we have in our kitty and we are going to distribute.
So you haven't seen it before?
Their proposals. We expect, no, when they come, first quarter, we expect A, B, C, and D, the resources. And that is why I made it very distinctly. 3, when you refer to Green Book as projects and then we don't have, I understand why they went for a Eurobond and they decided to use portion of the Eurobond to pay salaries. We have to be very careful. Internally generated funds meet certain expenditure. You go in for loans, it tied to mostly capital expenditure. And that is why they are loans. When they come to Parliament, they have what they are supposed to be used for. I'm very clear. So if they don't interpret the two and feel that I can even go for loan, then I understand why the 750 Eurobond, part of it was used to pay salary. 2, now I understand why they can even go to sell Vodafone to settle recurrent expenditure. Are you getting my point?
Right.
Okay.
So we have to be very distinct about this.
Worry.
It is passionate. Education is very critical. And I want to thank CHASS for indicating that come September, they won't be able to do that.
And this will
If
have
it had been some,
August,
if it had been some, they would have waited 3 days to reopening, then they come up with this. But as a listening government, and a government concerned about the people, irrespective of the challenges, we'll settle with them, we'll see how we'll be able to resolve
Are you also not worried about what Kamal talks about, that perhaps we're not managing certain resources well, not putting them where they need to be? That's why we find ourselves in this situation.
You indicated to him that SADA will be discussing it. That's why I didn't want to touch it.
We'll talk about it. I'm grateful.
So when it comes
grateful.
to SADA,
I'm grateful. Come on, a quick reaction, then we'll move on.
touch on it.
You see, let not allow education to be toyed with in this country. It's the future of this country.
How?
Yes, of course. If we come out there in our manifesto and say, yes, when I come, accessibility, quality will be key. Okay? And basic provision regarding food, or talking about food, it's not even met. Aren't we toying with education in this country? We are. We sit here and fees that are meant to be given to the heads of schools, okay, representing the fees that you're supposed to pay for those that you feel you have subsidized for, and therefore you have progressive free SHSs going on. It's not paid. The students are kept home. Who is detrimental to the child? The government. Now, my brother says that we've gone to take Eurobonds on 250 and pay salaries.
750.
Wait a minute. We've gone to take Eurobond and pay salaries.
Use part of
At
it.
least we are able to tell you that some parts of the Eurobond bond that we took went into paying salaries. Tell us what you used the 1 billion Eurobond you took. Tell us.
Okay.
Tell guys what you use the 1 billion to do.
Okay.
He says it's very important. Last time I checked, the president of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, who is our president, was on TV praising us for the sale of Vodafone. You see? The last time I checked, he was on TV just recently, and saying that it was a good initiative, it was a good move, and it saved the telecom industry in this country.
No.
Okay.
You see,
all right.
you don't get. He doesn't get what I'm saying. I'm talking of the proceeds.
What proceeds?
You have to be very careful.
You tell us why you use the 1 billion. 1 billion Eurobond. What did you use?
Okay,
We are not
gentlemen,
talking of.
we
have,
saying
at least we have.
I want us to stay
No, 1
focused.
billion. What did you use?
depleted it.
1 billion. What did you use? Tell us what did you use?
I want us
You
to
see,
stay focused
one-
on the issue. We're talking
billion.
about
Let me tell
education.
you.
We're talking about
Before
education.
they-
Even tell us.
One
Your budget, your 1
We
billion.
are talking about education, so
Before
you
we
let's stay on the
approve it,
education.
There was a prospectus.
I said in your budget, the
Prospectus
1 billion was
attached.
missing. 1 billion
I'm
Eurobond
saying
was
that
missing.
the prospectus
Okay.
was attached.
All right.
And most
Now-
of them went to counterpart funding.
You are
That
not
are
telling us.
projects. Let
All
me
right.
tell you.
Okay.
That are projects.
Gentlemen,
so
right
it
now,
will not come like an item.
anyway,
This is the fiscal.
at least-
It's counterpart funding, because most of. Let me explain it
What
very
did
well.
you use the 1 billion for?
When
Tell
you
us.
go for a loan,
We still don't know what you
The
did the 1
government-
billion.
Okay, Kamal, you allow him to
no,
explain.
if you
and
go
then
for
we
a
can
100
move.
million loan, what happened is that the donors don't give you 100 million. They'll say, okay, we'll handle 85% of
So you
it.
didn't get 1 billion.
15% will be handled by your own resources. That is what we call counterpart funding. So the 1 million was to prorata it among all the projects,
Okay,
so that we'll be able to meet our commitments.
Okay.
Very, very important.
All right, I'm grateful.
That is what I'm saying. Counterpart funding.
I don't want us to be discussing
That's fine.
that one now, because